Welcome to Earrings Off. I'm Lou.
And I'm Teresa. Let's get started.
Hello. We have with us today a guest on our show, and we are going to be talking about felony convictions and the impact. So, when prisoners are released from prison, they face so many barriers in their return to society. These barriers prevent them from becoming productive members of society.
Many believe, as we do, that such barriers are intentional. Here in the United States, there are over 2 million people incarcerated. African American men make up 37% of that number.
Within 5 years, almost 77% are rearrested. This has impacted so many of our families. It has certainly impacted mine.
Today we will be talking with Michael, who has agreed to share his story. Thank you, Michael, for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Okay. So, Michael, tell us about your life before your conviction. Describe to us about your life so people can get to know Michael.
Well, I've always been a hyper kid, very animated, class clown, can make people laugh, very outgoing, talkative. And those behaviors sometimes ramped up to get me in trouble in school sometimes. I was, sometimes set aside from the classmates because I was too rowdy or too noisy, too talkative. So this pretty much was an ongoing issue in elementary school and up into middle school.
Okay.
So how old were you when you went to prison?
I was 19 years old. I had completed a year of college, a year and a half of college, and that's where I started experimenting with a controlled substance, cocaine, which ultimately led me to doing the things which caused me to be convicted for theft and ended up going to jail and serving some time.
Okay. And so how many years did you serve, Michael?
I served 7 years and 7 months. I was sentenced to 18 years, but under the law in which I was sentenced, we had parole, and you were allowed to go up for parole after you satisfied a certain amount of time in which you had to serve before you would go in front of the board and have them make a decision as to whether or not you were ready to be released back into society.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. And so what did you say the actual charges were?
I had probation violation and grand larceny, and I had a lot of time on my head for the probation violation, and I caught a grand larceny charge from stealing to support my habit, and that charge ended up getting me. Well, I had 20 years probation. Mm-hmm. Caught a grand larceny charge. So from the probation, they gave me 12 years, and then from the grand larceny charge, they gave me 6 years, and they ran it consecutive instead of running it concurrent.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So ultimately, I was sentenced to 18 years for grand larceny.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
So how did that impact your relationships?
It impacted a lot of relationships because people to this day who still never really knew what happened, but they knew me. There are different versions of what happened as to why I was incarcerated. Some people have kept their distance. Some people have remained true. My family has been very supportive, or was very supportive at the time, and that really was the key to me not being a recidivist and, going back, which is very easy to do.
So when you say that they kept their distance, some people, can you describe for listeners what that looks like and feels like, or how did you make that assessment?
Well, after being incarcerated, some people get a sense of, what's the word I'm looking for? I just became real bitter and real self-preserving, because if you show weakness in the penitentiary, you could become prey, meaning
Right.
that you could become a victim.
Right.
So that attitude and not really caring what people think about me, the ones who, seem to keep their distance, kick rocks, move on. If you're not, feel like you're, I'm important enough, or we're not, or don't have a good rapport enough to continue a relationship or communications, then I don't need to, communicate with you.
Right, right.
So you mentioned that it was because of family and their support that helped you to, not become one of the statistics in repeat offenders. Tell us a little bit about that and how important it was to have your family support.
It's very important to have family support because it's so hard. Here it is, someone that I took Pell Grant classes when they were offered, and then the government stopped those programs. But when I was released, I continued my education and was able to complete a 4-year degree in computers and information systems. But still having that and having a felony was, I kind of gave up trying to pursue what I went to school for, because, as soon as you fill out that application saying if you were convicted of a felon, that you usually don't get a call back. And it's disheartening, because I've also had opportunities where I had to test a battery of tests to be hired for a position, and it started out with like 30 candidates, came down to 3 of us, and because I had a felony conviction, I didn't,
Were there instances, because now with a lot of positions, they are, some companies and organizations are not even asking that question, and if they are, they're allowing people to explain. But in your instance, particularly when we look at when this occurred, that was not happening. If you were honest and said you had a felony conviction, then that was the end of that discussion.
Yes, it was. And it also depended on how they worded it on certain applications, because I ran into, have you ever been convicted of a felony? And I've also seen, have you been convicted of a felony within X amount of years?
Right.
So.
Right. So you never got the chance to explain that. Nobody was concerned about how long ago that was and your age at the time. Okay.
Even to this day.
Yeah. Yeah. So, Michael, if you could share one piece of advice to young African American men gleaned from your life as a result of your incarceration, what do you think that one piece of advice would be?
Get your education or learn a skilled trade. Because you have to, it's hard out here. You have to make it. You have to be able to show that you can sustain in society, because it's a dog eat dog society already. And then you, the ex-felon, you have a strike against you going in to seek certain employment, whereas you have other people that are just as worthy of that position, but they've never been in trouble. So of course those people will be selected before someone who's been in trouble.
Right.
Regardless of your experience, as experienced or even more experienced than the people who've never been in trouble.
Right.
How could we, as a community, have helped you readjust once you're released?
Well, the getting help from the community is just more or less having someone take a chance on you. That's all you need. If you get someone, especially if you're sincere about wanting to succeed and stay out of trouble, if you get someone that gives you a chance, I try to tell people to this day, even with my company that I work with, that sometimes you need to hire people who have sustained adversity, because meaning being incarcerated, because those are the ones that are going to take their jobs more serious than someone who's never been in trouble, because they realize that if they don't have that particular job and a certain sense of stability, that other factors may lead them to back down a path that they might not want to go in order to make it. So just being able to have someone give ex-felons chances. Now, I at one time also said, not all ex-felons, because I would say non-violent ex-felons, and that's not to discriminate against the violent offenders, but the non-violent offenders would be the ones that would have a better chance in getting hired these days, in my opinion, than someone who has a violent offense. Just with the way of the world is, it's just.
I get that.
But, okay, so Michael, when you talked about your family being supportive and that making a big difference in terms of, you coming out and being able to get your footing and not to be returned to the system. But were there any other instances or resources that you could access, or, unexpected support along the way, not a family member, that maybe encouraged you at all through this process as you, rebuild your life?
Well, the main person was my ex-wife. She was very supportive throughout pretty much the majority of the incarceration, and helped me transition back. She was the one who actually was able to get me a job at a university as a cataloger, in which I was able to go to school at night and accomplish my degree. And she was very, very instrumental in helping me stay focused and continue to educate myself and just be the best that I can be. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Community resources, didn't really have to use many of them. There weren't too many when I got out. Basically, the resources are whatever list of people your probation or parole officer may have for you to call and see if they might hire you or might give you a call for a job, but nothing definite.
Well, do you have, Teresa, I don't know if you have anything else, but do you have anything that maybe we haven't covered that you want to share with listeners or with folks who maybe have had to walk through a similar journey that might be beneficial for them to hear?
I already know it's hard, because like I said, having a college degree and still having the door slammed in your face, that it just makes you step back and think about the other people who don't have or have not accomplished as much as you have, and the treatment that they will get. So I just try to just stay focused, and I just try to stay focused.
Well, so I know that you have children.
Yes.
So what message are you sending or trying to send to them, particularly your boys, in terms of life choices?
Well, fortunately, my kids are nothing like I was. I'm just seeing the things that they have growing up as children versus what we had. We're in a different age. I used to go outside and throw rocks for fun, whereas now my son, just to stay focused, get their education, make wise choices, wise decisions, especially stress that to my oldest son, because he's a freshman and he's really, he's a really good kid, young man. He's very intelligent.
Very.
I sometimes wonder if he has a mean or bad streak in him, but he's a good kid, and I just, you know, sometimes tell them about my experiences being incarcerated and how that's not something that you want to experience or something that you, it's just not something that one person will want to experience, although I think that the experience has made me a stronger person by far
I bet.
and more disciplined.
Yeah, I bet. So that's all we have.
Right.
Michael, again, thanks so much for being, for agreeing to talk with us. So many times in our community, people don't talk because they're embarrassed. And apparently you've gotten to a point in your life where you're comfortable with Michael enough to share your story. And that means so much to people. So we've talked a lot about your felony conviction and how your imprisonment has impacted your life and your hopes for your life. But again, we thank you, and we thank you for your healing, so that now you're in a place to share that with others.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, thank you. And do you have any additional or follow-up or closing words that you'd like to share with our audience, our listening audience?
Yes, I'd just like to say to all of my ex-felons who've knows what it is to be incarcerated and experience holidays without your family and how lonely that is. I just tell you to keep your heads up and just try to get that education and or if you don't receive an opportunity to become employed, another thing that I forgot to mention and failed to mention that I will tell a lot of guys is that a lot of CDL jobs are open for ex-felons. This is a chance for you guys to become independent self-starters, and a lot of companies do give ex-felons opportunities to drive tractor trailers and make good money. It sometimes can be a lonely road, but lonely on the road, but at the same time you can make good money as well as reestablish yourself back into society. That is very important, to reestablish yourself back into society as a productive member, not as a felon who has a black cloud over their head.
Okay, Michael, you've shared quite a bit of information with us, and we totally appreciate it. But and you can tell us if you don't want to go here, but I'm a little bit curious about like a day in the life when you were incarcerated.
A day in the life of being incarcerated. Well, first of all, throughout the day, at particular points in the day, you have to be counted. Everyone has to be counted. So they stop inmate movement and they count. And that starts first thing in the morning. And then you get up, and then after they count, probably it's like 5 or 6 o'clock.
In the morning?
That you have to make your bed. You have to get out of bed. So a lot of guys are still asleep and they hate to have to make their beds up, which I used to get up and make my bed already and be ready for count. So when I could, after they count, I would just lay back down and wait for breakfast. They call chow. You go to chow hall for breakfast, and you after that you come back to the building. You may have an option to go outside depending on the type of facility and the type of things that they offer. Like some had pool tables, weights. You go do that until noon, around noon, and right before noon they would do another count, and then you'd have lunch, and then after lunch you would go back on the rec yard. It's not all about rec and working out and playing. Some people read books, played chess, went to the library, jogged, and after the lunch, you would go back out, like I said, for the rec period, and then after the rec, you go to dinner, and you have to get counted after dinner. And excuse me, I'm sorry. You would get counted before going to not dinner, it's chow. That's what they refer to it as. So you go to dinner, and after that, we'd come back, and they would. It's like a routine. You'd go work out, do what you do. You play basketball, you worked out, you played card games, chess. People fought. I mean, it's just a whole underworld. I mean, and another thing about it too, I will say, is that the geographics of being incarcerated, meaning in Virginia State penitentiaries, there are two big factions. You have the 804, which is Richmond, and then you have the 757, which is Tidewater area, which consists of the 7 cities: Hampton, Newport News, Norfolk, Portsmouth, Chesapeake, Virginia Beach. And in the penitentiary, these guys don't normally get along. You know, and then you also have a smaller group, the Northern Virginia and D.C. area. So those are the three main factions in Virginia penitentiaries: D.C., Richmond, and Tidewater. And the funny thing about it is, in the jail, before you even go into the major penitentiary, is like Richmond, for example, you have South Side, North Side, West End, East End. Now, some of these guys may know each other, but at the same time, they keep it to their locales, whereas, you know, you from South Side, you know, you deal with your South Side guys in the jail, North Side, and so on and so forth. And they kind of, you know, stayed to themselves. But then when they went to the bigger penitentiary, they kind of pulled together, because now we're all from the Richmond area, and we have guys coming from other areas. So it's like a force, not for protection. It's where you're from. And some guys associate that with toughness, roughness, you know. And it's kind of silly when you sit back and look at it, but it is what it is, and that's how it goes down. But yeah, after dinner, after the dinner time rec, we go inside, and they will count again, and we do things inside the dorm. Guys work out, play cards, and watch TV, sporting events, gambling, and that's pretty much it. And then you wake up the next day for count, and you do it all over again.
Well, you mentioned that some guys read and played chess. Was that kind of activity encouraged, or was there a library, or?
It wasn't encouraged, but for those people that took a liking to doing that, it was a competitive thing, because you always want to be the best one on the spread, if you will. When I say spread, you want to be the best one on the compound. Like, I played Scrabble, and I'm pretty good at it. I played for some years now, and I wasn't that good when I first started until I learned the concept on how to score major points. And I played a little chess, but I mainly worked out and played a little basketball, and sometimes football. You know.
So, Michael, when you were there, what was the thing that you were looking forward to the most? What was the thing that you were looking forward to the most when you knew you were going to get out? You know, when you talked about the different meals, was it that you could get home and eat what you wanted? Certainly, I'm sure it was the freedom, but what was the thing that sort of just kept you going to know one day you'd be able to do this again?
Believe it or not, and sorry to cut across you.
No, you're fine.
Being able to walk out of your house to go get the mail.
Really?
Yeah.
Something as simple as that would be so appreciated, to be able to walk into a store and buy a soda.
Yeah.
You know, the little things that you take for granted when you're out there. When you are incarcerated, those opportunities don't come like that. You don't get those types of things that you can get when you're free.
Yeah.
And believe it or not, that was the thing that I used to always associate with, like, you know, I mean, of course I want to do more than just go get the mail, but something, a simple task is being able to go get the mail, something that anyone could do. It's something that you would desire and long to do while you were incarcerated.
Right. Certainly. Well, that makes sense to me. Well, thank you for sharing that specifically to give us a better idea of what you endured. But Michael, you haven't said anything. You actually have a bit of good news that happened recently.
Yes, I've had some struggles when it has come to being able to provide and keep a roof over my head on my own doing, or by my own doing. And since the divorce, I've lived with my grandparents who are now deceased. And then from there, I went to an apartment. And from the apartment, I went to another apartment. And I will say that I was paying a great bit of money for a 2-bedroom apartment. So I was like, you know what? I need to rent a house. I don't know what made me think that I just needed to rent. So I decided to reach out to a realtor, and the realtor told me that there are a lot of first-time home buyer programs and this, that, and the other, and she just wanted to see what my credit score was, because then she would know what road or option we would take. So
Right.
I gave her my information, and she ran my credit, and come to find out, I was approved for a loan
Wow.
in order to get a house. So
Wow.
I am now a homeowner, and I'm
Congratulations.
thank
Yeah,
you.
that is huge.
And I'm only paying
And you weren't
200.
seeking to be a home. You
Wasn't
didn't think
seeking
it. Yeah, you didn't
to
think
be a
it.
homeowner, and I'm only paying a couple of $100 more for a mortgage than I was paying for rent.
Oh,
Oh,
that's
wow.
awesome.
So
Congratulations.
I'm a little nervous. It's a big endeavor, but
Oh,
I think
yeah.
I'll be all right.
Oh,
Yeah,
you'll
sure
be
you will.
fine. I tell you.
I'll be all right.
Well, congratulations.
Thank you.
That's huge, and you certainly deserve that. So all the best to you in your new home.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you for your time.
And thank you
Thank
for
you for
having me.
interviewing.
And thank you.
Thank
Great
you.
advice. Thank you.
That is excellent advice. Again, thank you so much. That's it for us today, listeners. And we wish you well.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you.
Okay.